started. So hopefully you guys had an opportunity here to take a look at the warm-up. So today's day 3. So last time we introduced, right, factoring here. So today we're gonna just practice a little bit more on that and introduce maybe a couple of different scenarios, which will make it a little bit more confusing to some. So we're gonna work on that and make sure it's not confusing. Just to be clear, guys, this is the week before spring break. So what my plan is that today we're going to keep practicing with factoring. And then when we meet on Thursday, we're going to use Thursday as in-class time to get our homework done and any missing assignments done so that we can not have homework for spring break. How does that sound, right? No work over spring break sounds really cool, right? So again, today we're going to really focus on some different examples of factoring that can maybe make things more difficult. And then we're next class on Thursday, we're going to spend some time. I'm going to give you guys time in class to work on your homework for factoring and to get missing assignments done, okay? So that way there's no work over spring break. So let's go ahead and, sorry, I got to take it off freeze. Let's go ahead and take a look at this warm-up, and then we'll keep going there, okay? And as always, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and ask in chat, or you can turn on your mic and ask as well. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Monday. We're almost at the end of March, guys, which means spring break is coming up quickly, and hopefully the weather is going to be changing for the better, right? It's like we got some sun, but it's awfully cold outside. All right, so taking a look at these. So again, the first thing we always want to do here is we want to draw a box. Okay, so we're going to take these trinomials, right, these 3 terms, and we're going to break them up into 2 binomials. So we always start by taking our first term, the squared term. We're going to put that in the upper left, and then we're going to take this last term, the 6, right, we're going to put that in the bottom right. Okay, and then we're going to, right, we have a little visual thing here. We're going to say what we're going to multiply on the top. We're going to say what we're adding to on the bottom. So what we multiply to, that's when we multiply our 2 numbers that are in our box. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply 6 and 6x squared, or x squared. So I get 6x squared, right? So I just multiplied these 2, right? So I go 6 times x squared is 6x squared. And then what they add to, that's my linear term. So that's or the middle term, right? So I'm going to have 7x. Okay. So now we're going to do, I ran out of room here, sorry. We're going to do our little game here. So I'm going to think, okay, what things multiply to get to 6, right? So I might think, well, 6 and 1, right? There's always itself and 1. That's always an option. And then we have 2 times 3. And I think that's it. 2 times 3, I think, is it. So let's take a look what they add to. So 6 plus 1 would be 7. That's what we want. And 2 plus 3 is 4, 5. Okay. So this is the one that we want. And again, if you guys have questions, please go ahead and ask questions. But a lot of this is very formulaic. So once you get a hold of the formula, it's really easy to do. So I'm going to want 6x. And 1x. Now remember, with 1x, we can just write x. We're going to do a quick test to make sure this is correct. So 6x times x gives me 6x squared. That looks good. And 6x plus 1x equals 7x. Okay, so these are the ones that I want. Again, it doesn't matter the order that you put them in, right? So you could put the x down here. You can put the 6x up there. But we're just going to take these answers and plug them into our box. All right. Now the next part, we just have to do one factor, and then we're good to go. So I always like to do the top. So I take my finger and I cover up the bottom here, and I say, okay, so on the top, what do they have in common? Well, this is x times x, and this is x. So they each have 1x in common, so I can pull out that 1x. Okay. Once you get that first one pulled out, right, and I like just starting with the top row, then we can think it's just a multiplication square, right? So x times what gives me x squared? Well, that would have to be another x. And then I think, okay, x times what gives me x? Well, that's just going to be a positive 1 because anything times 1 is itself. Okay. And then I say, okay, x times what gives me 6x? Well, I have the x, so I'm missing the 6, so it's plus 6. And then just to make sure that we did everything correct, 1 times 6 equals 6. So I'm going to take these two, and I'm going to write that out as my answer. So my answer is going to be, and again, the order doesn't matter, so I'm going to have x plus 6 times x plus 1. And when I say order doesn't matter, if you wrote x plus 1 times x plus 6, that's also correct. Okay, so it doesn't matter which factor comes first, right? So if the x plus 1 comes first, that's totally fine. So with that said, does anybody have questions before I move on to the next one? Are we doing okay? Is there anything I can do to help? All right, so I'm not hearing anything from anybody. So hopefully this means you guys are feeling really confident. Okay. Let's take a look. So for this next one, since no one asked any questions, I'm going to go a little bit faster on this next one because I don't want to be going too slow if everyone gets it. So again, I start with my 2x2 box. I'm going to put my first term and my last term in there. Okay. And then I'm taking a look here. On the top, I'm going to have the product. On the bottom, I'm going to have the addition. Okay. So 8 times x squared, that's going to go here. And then my linear term or my middle term is going to go down here. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for two numbers that multiply to 8. So we always have the number and 1. In this case, I have 2 times 4. Okay. Anything else going to 8? I think that's it. Okay. So then let's see what they add to. 8 plus 1 is 9. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. So I want 9. So it's going to be these two. So that means I'm going to write this as 8x and just 1x. And then we're going to double check. 8x times x, that's 8x squared. And then 8x plus 1x, that's 9x. So these are mine. And again, it doesn't matter the order. So I'm going to switch it up from what I did last time. Okay, so it doesn't matter the order that we place it in. Okay. And again, I'm going a little bit faster because no one asked a question on the first one. Okay. And then I go like this, and I say, okay, what do they have in common? Well, this has an 8 in it, but there's nothing that goes into 8 over here besides 1, right? So then I take a look, well, this has 2 x's, and this has 1x, so I'm only able to pull out an x right now. So now I can work backwards. What times x gives me x squared? Another x. What times, right? So again, down here, what times x gives me 8x? Well, I'm missing that positive 8, right? And then what times x gives me x, right? That's just a positive 1. And then let's double check. 8 times 1 is 8. So again, these are my factors. And you can write them in any order that you would like. So I'm going to, in this one again, I'm going to switch up the order just because I can. X plus 8 times x plus 1. Those are my factors. Okay. So again, we're just taking this from a trinomial and writing it in factored form. So we often will refer to this as a quadratic and this as factored form. Okay, so and you're going to find when we come from spring break, you're going to be like, well, why are we doing this? Well, we're going to do this because in black here, this is really hard to solve algebraically. But solving this one right here algebraically is really easy. So we're taking something that's really hard to solve algebraically, and then we're making it something that's going to be really easy to solve algebraically. And that's what we're going to do after spring break. We're going to start solving these, okay? So how are we doing, guys? We doing okay? Is there anything I can do to help? You guys are awfully quiet today, but that's okay. You guys do you. I just want to make sure if you guys have questions that Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for responding. Okay. So now, I know. Thank you, thank you. Hey, and I just really want to make sure you guys are doing okay, because remember, it's about you, not me. And this, though this will be a YouTube video later, I want you guys make sure you're asking questions, and so I can help. So today, you guys see this little mini game here, so where I said what time like multiplies to get this. That's gonna get more difficult today, and I know some of you guys are gonna be like, oh man, that already was the most difficult part. And I agree. When I was a student, this is the part I struggled with most, is like what multiplies to get the numbers. So that's gonna get a little bit more difficult today, because we're gonna add in negatives. Okay, so that's what today is all about. We're gonna do exactly this, but you see how all these numbers were positive? So today we're gonna add in negatives. Okay, so it doesn't change anything but the numbers that we're guessing. So none of the process changes. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and do an example together. We're just gonna dive right into it. Okay, and what we're gonna do, so here's our example. We're going to factor, and then my example is gonna be x squared minus 8x plus 12. Okay, so the only thing that new is the minus. Okay, and I can, so minus is new. Okay, the minus is new right here, the minus. Okay, so we're gonna do this exactly, and I'll show you guys where this is gonna be different, but everything else is exactly the same. So I'm gonna have a 2x2 box. Okay. My first term is still going to go up here, and my other term is still, my constant term, or my last term, is still going to go down here. Okay, I'm still going to do the x with multiplication on top, addition on bottom. My multiplication is still going to be 12 times x squared. But then when I pull this number down, we have to take with it the negative sign out in front. Okay, so it says minus 8. So when I go down here, I have to put, you see how I put the negative 8x. So what does this mean for us? So we're still going to play our little mini game. Right? We're still going to play our little mini game. But we have to remember now, these two numbers are going to multiply to get 12. But they're going to add to get negative 8. Oh my gosh. So that means here, right, if they're going to multiply to be positive, we have to remember there's two ways that you can multiply to get a positive number. Both the numbers are positive, or both the numbers are negative. Okay, and let's take a look at that. So what are some numbers that multiply to get to 12? Well, let's have our usual suspects. So we have 12 times 1, right? I have 2 times 6. We have 3 and 4. Okay. So I'm just making a list of things that multiply to get 12. Nothing has changed, right? But now, when I go to do addition, that's where we have to start being more creative. Notice how this is negative. Well, if these were all positive, there's no way we're getting to negative, right? So what I do here is, so again, if I add all of these up, they all are positive numbers, but we want a negative number. So the way to get around this is make these all negative. Okay, because, and you can always double check this on a calculator, right? If I go negative 12 times negative 1, I get positive 12. Just like negative 2 times negative 6, I get positive 12. So having them all be negative means I still can multiply to a positive number. But now when I add them, right? So let's see what happens when I add them. I'm going to have negative 12 plus negative 1 So that's negative 13. Okay, that's not what I wanted. I want negative 8, right? And then I go negative 2 plus negative 6. I get negative 8. And then negative 3 plus negative 4, I get negative 7. Okay, so we're still adding, right? We're adding negatives, and the calculator can really help you guys out with that. So what do I want? I want negative 8. So these are going to be my two answers. So again, the same process. So to recap, remember, to multiply to get positive numbers, it can either be both positive or both negative, right? We can't add up two positive numbers to get to negative 8. So they both have to be negative. Okay? So I'm going to stop there. Are we doing okay with that? This is the only thing new that we're doing today. It's just that it just throws a little wrench in when we're guessing, right? Everything's not positive. There can be negatives. All right, you guys, it seems like we're doing okay. So I'm going to take, I have negative 2x and negative 6x. So we're just going to double check really quickly. So, and I can do this with you guys on my calculator. So negative 2 times negative 6, that's positive 12. Oops, I have a light there. So negative 2 times negative 6, that's positive 12. And then negative 2 plus negative 6 is negative 8. So yeah, it is harder. Like, and I agree, it's harder, but only a little bit. I think that's a really good way of putting it, right? It's the same thing, and it does make it just a little bit harder, right? So we're gonna have to practice it, and that's why we're spending today on it. Okay. So once you get these, everything that's new is done. This is the only thing that's new. So you're gonna go ahead and put these into your box. Okay, like that. And then we're going to factor out just like we would normally. Okay, so if I take my finger and I put it down like this, I see what they have in common, right? This has 2 x's, this has 1 x. This has a 6, but this only has a 1. So I can only pull out a 1. So I'm still only going to be able to pull out an x. Right? Still only going to be able to pull out an x, so that doesn't change. What times x gives me x squared? Well, another x. And then I think, okay, what times x gives me negative 6x? Well, then this just becomes negative 6. Okay, do you see how I put the negative in there? So it's x minus 6 now, okay, because negative 6 times 6 is negative 6x. Down here, I'm going to have x times what gives me negative 2x? Well, this is going to be a negative 2. And then we double check. Does negative 2 times negative 6 equal 12? It sure does. So my answer is x minus 2 times x minus 6. So again, the thing that's new is just when we're trying to find this, that's what's going to make it new. Okay? All right, we're going to do one more together, and then we're going to use the rest of this time for practice. Okay, so we're going to do one more together, and then we're going to use the rest of this time to practice and make sure you guys are good to go. How are we doing? Does anybody have any questions? Right? It's just this part, it just makes it, we just have to think, like, it's just going to make this part a little bit longer. We have to think about it. We have to try a couple of different things, but it's doable. Okay. So let's do one more together. And then I'm going to have you guys try some on your own. Okay. So here's your next one. So here's example 2. So we're going to factor. Let's do one more together. And then, like I said, you guys will try a few on your own. So we're going to have x squared plus 4x minus 21. Okay. I have no idea. So I don't coach. I just assist. So I don't know anything about practice times. I would email Mr. Ibarra about that. Nope. I'm glad you asked. Okay, so again, what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and make a box, right? So that part never changes. The start never changes, which is really nice because it gives you something that like you can automatically do every time. Okay, so I put my squared term in the upper left. I put my subtraction, or I mean, sorry, my constant. Now in this case, see how it's negative 21? So we have to put the negative down here, right? We can't just put 21. So we have to put the negative 21. Okay, so do you guys see how that's the only thing that's different, right? So before this was always positive, right? But now it's negative. Okay, so just make sure you have x squared and negative 21. So now when I go to do my multiplication and my addition, when I multiply these, negative 21 and x squared, this just becomes a negative 21 x squared. So again, the negative comes with it. My middle term is positive 4x. So I can just go ahead and write positive 4x. Okay. So now when I go to do my list for multiplication, right? Here's my list for multiplication. How do we get a negative number when we multiply? Right? How do we get a negative number when we multiply? Well, that means just one of them has to be negative, right? So just one of them has to be negative. So what I like to do is I like to just get a list and then go back and make them negative later. So let's ignore that negative for now. What times what gives me 21? Well, we have 21 times 1, right? What else? 7 times 3, right? Anything else? I think that's it. Well, the problem here is if you take two positives, it doesn't equal a negative. So in each one of these, one of them has to be negative. So you can, now the way that I like to look at this, like how do you choose which one's negative, is look at the sum. Right? Look at the sum. If the sum is positive, right, the sum, if it's positive, then the bigger number has to be positive. If the sum is negative, then the bigger number has to be negative. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is just guess and check. Okay, so either you look down here and you say, is this positive? Then that means the bigger number has to be positive. Or you just guess and check. Okay, either way, they both work. Okay, so if you don't remember that kind of shortcut that, hey, if this is positive, the bigger number is positive, then you just do that. So one thing you might do is you might just say, okay, I'm going to try this. And then you might also just say, I'm also going to try this. Okay, so if you're going to guess and check, you might want to write down all of them. So definitely the shortcut is just looking at the sign of your linear term, and that tells you which one's positive. But if you don't remember that, you can just list them all out. So for example, all of these multiply to get negative 21. But if I go 21 plus negative 1, that's 20. If I go 7 plus negative 3, that's 4. If I go negative 7 plus 3, that's negative 4. And if I go negative 21 plus 1, that's negative 20. Okay. Now, if I had gone with my shortcut and I had said, hey, my linear term is positive, then I would have already known this was my answer. Okay, the bigger number has to be positive. Okay. But again, if you forget that, or like that doesn't make sense to you, all we're doing is we're just doing all the options. We know one of them has to be negative because when we multiply, the answer is negative. And I hope this makes sense. And if you guys are confused, please go ahead and tell me. So what I found is that the 7 has to be positive and the negative has to be the 3. So I'm going to write this as 7x and negative 3x. So when you write this down, always double check. So let's double check with the calculator. So I'm going to go 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. So these multiply to get negative 21. And then 7 plus negative 3 equals 4. Okay, so these are good to go. Okay, I checked them. And then again, it doesn't matter where you put them. It doesn't matter where you put them in your box. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to cover up one of these. And I'm going to say, hey, there's 2 x's here. There's 1 x here. Just a 1 here, so I'm not going to be able to move that 3. I can just pull out an x. Once I do that, I say, okay, what times x gives me x squared? Well, that would have to be another x, right? X times x equals x squared. And then what times x would give me negative 3x? Well, that would have to be a negative 3. What times x gives me 7x? That would have to be a positive 7. And then we double check. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. So I get x minus 3 times x plus 7 is factored form. Okay, so again, when we add in these negatives, it just makes this little side game a little bit longer. Okay, because we have to consider more possibilities. So I'm going to have you guys try a couple and see where we're getting stuck and see if we can't get unstuck and get you guys feeling confident about doing this, okay? All right, are there any questions before we move on? I hope you guys are doing well. I wish I could see that you guys are doing well. All right. So, let's go ahead here. And let's take a look. So, you guys are going to try on your own. So try this one. We're going to factor x squared minus 12x plus 27. Okay. And I'm going to give us, I want to give plenty of time because we all work at different paces. I'm going to give us 2 minutes to work on this. Maybe 2.5. Okay. So you guys have 2.5 minutes to work on this. Give that a shot. Everyone should try it. And if you get stuck, you can send me a private chat and I can help you out. All right. So let's go ahead and do this together. So I'm going to kind of do it at an accelerated pace because you guys had time to work on this. So if you guys see where you made a mistake, just go ahead and correct it. If you have a question, go ahead and say in chat what your question is. So I just filled out my box. So then I know it's going to multiply to get 27x squared, and it's going to add to negative 12x. So when I go to do this, right, if I'm going to add to negatives, they're going to both have to be negative. So the first thing I'm going to do is what times what gives me 27. So I have 27 times 1. I get 3 times 9. Is there anything else that gets 27? Is that right? Sometimes you can, right? So if I go 27 divided by 4, nope. 27 divided by 6, nope. 27 divided by, 27 divided by 7, nope. 27 divided by 8, nope. Okay, so that looks like it. Just doing some guess and check there. So now if I add these though, right? If I add these, this would just be positive. This would be positive. So the only other way to do this is to make them both negative. So if I made them both negative, a negative 27 plus a negative 1 would be negative 28. And a negative 3 plus a negative 9 would be a negative 12. So this is what we're going to want right here. We want negative 3 and negative 9. And to double check this, right? Negative 3 times negative 9 equals 27. That's what I wanted. And then a negative 3 plus a negative 9 equals negative 12. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 3x and negative 9x. Okay. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to plug them into here. So I have negative 3x and negative 9x. Okay, so I'm going to factor out here. What do I got on the top? I have 2x's and 1x, so I'm going to pull out this. Okay. And then what times x gives me x squared? I get x. And then I get x times what is negative 9x? It's negative 9. X times what is negative 3x? So my answer is x minus 3 times x minus 9. Okay. How did you guys do? Is there anybody have questions? Okay, thank you for your response. If you guys are doing well, if you guys see where you got stuck, yeah, and if you guys are doing great, then this is good, guys. It feels good just to like have like a time in math where things are going well and the homework is easy and you don't have to stress. So that's good. That's how math should be, right? This is some of you guys. Yeah, and hey, if you get it but only a little bit, again, this is good. So if you're like, man, I'm still not great at this, that's where you should be, right? So some of you guys are feeling like, Kreft, I feel really good. Great. Some of you are like, Kreft, I'm not there yet. Perfect, guys. That's why we're still practicing this, okay? Thank you guys for the feedback. That helps me out. That tells me we do need more practice, so that's really good. So let's try, we're going to try another one of these. So we're going to try factor, and this one, I want you guys to try this on your own as well. Okay, so you guys are going to try this one on your own. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes and 30 seconds again. Okay, so go ahead and try this on your own. Again, you guys are going to do this one on your own. So make sure you guys do this one on your own. Again, if you guys have questions, you can ask in chat, or you can turn on your mic and ask as well. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and go over this. So I'm going to put the x squared up here, and then my constant term down here. So it's a -8. So when I go over to here, I have my multiplication and my addition. So this is -8x squared, and I have 7x. That's my sum, right? That's my linear term, my middle term down there. And then, sorry, I'm just going to turn this off. Okay, so then I'm looking for things that multiply to 8. So that's going to be like 8 times 1, 2 times 4. Okay, but see how this is negative? So one of them's got to be negative. So again, the shortcut here is, since this one's positive, the bigger number has to be positive. So that means that either this has to be negative and that has to be negative. So if I go to the adding here, 8 plus -1 is 7, and -2 plus 4 is 2. Okay, so then it looks like I want to get 7. So I would have a positive 8x and a negative x, and we can double check. 8 times -1 is -8, right? So there we go. And then 8 minus 1 is 7. So I might have a -8, negative x, and a positive 8. I'm going to factor out what I can here. Since this doesn't have an 8 term, this is x. This would be x. X times x is x squared. And then I have plus 8 and -1. So my answer would be x minus 1, x plus 8. Like that. Okay. And what I want to do, I just had a brilliant idea. Since a lot of you guys aren't getting your homework turned in, what I'm going to do is, what class is this extended? I'm just going to go ahead and just a second. 950. Just a second, I have to do a start time. Let's do. Okay, so I'm gonna have you guys log into Big Ideas and get your assignments going. So just a second, I'm gonna go. Oops. I'm gonna post the link in here just to make sure you guys can get on here. So just a second. So I want you guys to go in and start your Big Ideas assignment. Oops. Maybe that doesn't work. Here. No, I wish I could delete. So here, go to this one instead. Oh, of course, that isn't. Oh my gosh. Here, guys. Here's the link. There he goes. Oh, it worked? Oh, okay. So if you guys go ahead, go to Big Ideas, and this is 7.5 day 3. So we should be working on that. And there's only 4 problems. So I bet you guys could get 1, 2, 3, even all 4 done, and then that way you guys don't have homework, okay? So yeah, I would work on it. I would work. I just opened it up, so it should be open right now. So if you guys go in, it's 7.5 day 3. I would start working on that one. Yeah. Just work on this next assignment. Okay. And let's just do that so that next class, right, we can focus on next class. We're going to practice a little bit more of this. And then we're also going to use it a time for people to get any missing work done. And since we don't want homework next class, we'll get all the homework done in class as well. So let's work on this. Let's go into spring break with the best grade possible. So if you guys need help, you can ask me questions. So right now we're working on 7.5 day 3. If you have questions, you can ask me in chat. We can get going on that. But all we're doing is we're working on this assignment. Oops. Right, so I'm just going. Right, so this is the assignment we're working on. So there should be 4 problems. And yeah, if you guys need help, let me know, and let's try to get these done before we leave today. I was giving you guys 2 minutes to do them, so maybe we get 2 done. Okay. And then let me know if you guys need help. And I'll tell you what, if you guys finish up this assignment early and you're totally done with it, then you guys can take off. But it doesn't look like anybody has turned it in yet. All right, how can I help? Okay, give me just a second. I will. So I'm going to write this problem down. Okay, and it would be really helpful if you told me where you were stuck. So do you know where you're stuck? So for example, did you start with a box? Okay, and then you know what goes in the 2 boxes. So if I have v squared and positive 4 down here. So I'm going to have multiply on top, add on bottom. So you multiply these 2, so this would be 4v squared, and this would be negative 5v. So have you gotten that far? All right, then can you tell me what multiplies to get 4? So what numbers multiply to get 4? Okay, so there's one. Okay, are there any other ones? So one way, if you're getting stuck, if this is where you're getting stuck, can I show you something? Here, let me show you how you can get unstuck here. So let's say 4. So you're just seeing what 4 is divisible by. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 4 times 1. And then 4 divided by 3, that's not a whole number. 4 divided by 2, so 2 times 2 would work. And then we have 4 divided by 1 is 4. Okay, so that's how you can find all the factors. Just start dividing by numbers that are smaller. Okay, so we also have 2 times 2. Okay, so if you ever get stuck like that again, a really helpful tool is just use a calculator and just try out numbers until you get whole number answers. Okay, so that's one way to do that. Now the next thing we're going to be looking at adding, well, they have to add to a negative number, but there's no way 4 plus 1 equals a negative number, and there's no way that 2 plus 2 equals a negative. So that's where the negatives we have to add in these negatives. So we have to remember a positive times a positive is a positive, but also a negative times a negative is a positive. So if we make these both negative, then I can add them, and I can use a calculator to add them. So I have, what do we have here? Negative 4 plus negative 1 is negative 5. And then negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. So which one do we want? We want to add to negative 5. So that's what we're going to do there. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully that's where you were getting stuck. So you should be able to get the rest. Thank you for asking those questions. Hey guys, if you finish and make sure you hit submit, right? So that way I have all of them. Once you finish and hit submit, go ahead and you're done for the day. I'll see you guys Thursday. You don't even have homework because you finished it in class. So it looks like 4 of you have turned in your assignment. So if you guys are done and good to go, you guys can take off. Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day. I'll see you guys Thursday. And it's actually 9:50. So if you guys didn't finish, then this just becomes homework. So make sure you guys have this done for next class, okay? All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Enjoy the sun while we have it. Bye, everybody.